Welcome, everyone. We are live today. It's Thursday. Remember, it's group coaching at noon on Fanbase. Anywho, my mother just sent me a note because she always does every single day. And in her note, it says, "You don't need GPS to find God." Huh? So I said, "Oh, well, is your GPS working? Your your God position state." Oh, remember what a state is? The state is your mood, your mental mood, the place you are always in. You'll see it, right? If you notice, God is within. He is within you. This is never going to change. He's within until he comes out, because as within, so without. As above, so below. So when he's ready, he emerges. You can't force it. There's nothing you can do other than when it happens, it happens, right? Anytime you are having a problem, it doesn't matter what that problem is. It doesn't matter what the problem is. Neville Goddard so beautifully says, circumstances don't matter. It doesn't matter the circumstance. What are you anchored in that will get you through the circumstances? What are you anchored in that will allow you to not create unsavory circumstances? That is the question. So, do you know where God is, and do you know how to access God? God is not near to you. Mm-mm. God's not near. God is in. Big difference. Near would mean position, place, distance. In you? Well, we all know what that means. God is within. So we turn within, which means you sit down or lay down or walk, do whatever it is, because you have your own personality. And you don't even have to speak. Have you ever noticed that? You didn't have to speak, but the thing you were thinking of just emerged, but you didn't have to speak. What does that tell you? Speaking is not necessarily required to project your words outward so that they do not return unto you void. You don't have to speak. Why is that? Because God is within. And remember the scripture that says, "Thank you, Father, for you always hear me." God's not deaf, as my son so beautifully put it. "Mom, why do they always have to holler so much in church? Is God deaf?" That did not go over well. But we get the point. God's not deaf. How can he be? He's got your ears. He's not blind. He's looking out your eyes. And he's not mute either. He's not mute. He speaks through you. So there's never a time where you should stop and think, "Oh my God, I'm so alone. I can't figure this out." No, not the case. God is always within you. Yes, always. So that's where you turn. And listen, if in the beginning you turn and you say, "I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. You got to help me, Lord. I don't know." Well, remember the law of polarity. Where are you now and what are you doing? Because when you acknowledge that part, you'll be able to see which direction to go in and what you would do. And when that becomes clear to you, now it's already in your mind's eye. It's already in your mind's eye. But to jog you, to entice you, to turn you on, for lack of a better phrase, you begin to ask yourself, I wonder what it would be like. What would I behave like? What would my personality be? How would people speak to me? And you begin to entertain. You begin to entertain those things. Why? When you entertain those things, God sees, God hears, God comprehends. And so that image that you're holding fast to, that you say, yes, this is the new me, this is who I want to be. Yes, this right here. And you begin to allow yourself to just entertain those thoughts and those feelings of what it would be like. And then what do? Walk in it, sleep in it, allow it to completely penetrate you, take over your whole mind. Why? Because that is the new shape you're taking on for your life. So you've got to remain consistent in it and persistent. And as I told you, no greater love than this. There is no greater love than this, that a man should lay down his life for his friends. That scripture is telling you. You see that thing that you want to become? You will lay down your old way. You will lay down your old way. Why? Because you are in love with the new way. So there's no greater love than this, that a man should lay down his life. So what are you laying down? You're laying down your old life. You're sacrificing it. Not physically, but metaphorically, spiritually, mentally. You are ceasing to be what you used to be so that you can become what it is you say you now want to be. So clearly one cannot serve two masters, so you've got to let one thing go. And the way to let that go is to fully embrace the thing you say you want to be by falling in love with it. That way, you don't have to force yourself. No, you don't. You don't have to force yourself. But you gladly remain in the new state that you want to be in. So on a daily basis, check your God-positioned state, your GPS. What state do you have God in? Check that. Day in and day out, moment by moment. Because if you're vigilant, if you are vigilant, you will gladly abandon the old if it emerges again. But Angela, I have been trying and I have been trying, but girl, let me tell you, this is just not working for me. This law that you talk about sounds so good, but it just don't work for me. Funny you should say the law doesn't work for you. Nah, you work it. Oh dear. You work it, my beautiful friends. It is always on. But creation follows a very specific pattern. So whatever it is you are entertaining, and if you are entertaining, "Well, I just can't make this work," well, then that is what you must reap, because that's the seed you are planting. Yeah, well, how come it just happens? Because that is the way the law works. It just happens. Cause and effect. If you have a particular cause, there's a particular effect that goes along with it. So it looks like it's just happening. You'll learn that more in boot camp. It looks like it's just happening, but don't get it twisted. It's not just happening. It is happening by design. And you're the master gardener. You're the one with the seeds in your satchel. You put your hand in there and you take a handful of seeds out. But most of us don't stop to look at what seeds we have taken out, because we don't see what seeds we've put in. What are you planting? Remember last night's lecture? Your husband. Who's your husband and your maker? Well, God is, right? But when you embody a state or capture a mood, God now becomes that mood because he's playing all the parts, right? And he puts on a face so you can see the mood that you are walking in. And now that thing, that mood that God has now embodied, which is you're God, you have embodied this new mood, you now have to obey it. You now have to submit. Oh, you have to submit to the state. Remember what a habit is: a thought, word, or action that you do the same way every time. So the state that you return to over and over and over and over again, the mood you are constantly in, that now becomes your habitual mood, your habitual state. And now you must submit to it, because that's the nature of a habit. It will make you comply. So you better choose. You better choose the habit that you are willing to comply with without resistance. Man, I don't want to do this again. Well, then choose a better habit, so that when you are compelled to act according to the habit or habitual state or mood that you are in, you will say, with pleasure, my darling. I will do it with pleasure. And then you notice you're not forced, are you? You are, but you aren't. We must always act according to the state. But if you deliberately choose the state, oh, you will bend a knee, won't you? You will comply. What? Because it is your privilege to do so, and it is your pleasure to do so, and it is your honor to do so. As opposed to, ugh, here we go again. I gotta bend to you. You don't want that kind of habit, believe me. Or as they say in Barbados, believe you me, it'll make you drag yourself. It'll make you feel like, ugh, how can I go on? But here's the beautiful thing. Here's salvation. If you encounter a state or a mood that you are in that makes you say, ugh, I cannot go on, remember you can change your state. You can change your state like you change your drawers. Yes, you can. You take it off one leg at a time and you put on a fresh pair. That's what that's how easy it is to embody the state. What would it be like if I were in this new state? How would it make me feel? Feels good. Oh, yes. And when it feels good to you, what would your new attitude look like? The only way for you to know is to get in there and try it on. Inside your mind's eye, try on that new attitude. And when you try it on, does it feel good? Is it a little tight? Does it chafe you a little bit? Well, then swap it out and try something else. That one's a little small. Well, the same way you would not walk out of a store with a pair of pants. Well, if you're a millennial, let's not think about them. You wouldn't deliberately walk out of a store with a pair of pants so snug that, well, you can't even walk. When you wear them, you wouldn't do that. Not deliberately. Then again, young people. But you hear what I'm saying? So then the attitude is the same thing. When you try it on, you say, almost, but not quite. We'll try on another attitude. How would you try it on? You see yourself behaving in the fashion you want to behave in. But remember always, you are behaving in the fashion of a dancer. You have mirror neurons, which means you are the one dancing in the mirror to see if this move is appropriate for you. You're not sitting in the dance studio watching somebody dance. No, you are the one dancing in front of the mirror. Oh, this step is off. Oh, that step is off. Well, how do you know the step is off? Because it doesn't match what you say you want to be. That's how you know. So then you move accordingly. Well, here's the new move. Let's put that in. And you rehearse it, and you rehearse it, and you rehearse it in your mind's eye, and you rehearse it in your mind's eye until you get it. I'm going to tell you something, because science, science, we all know this because we've heard it millions of times. But here's how you will grasp what you are doing, what you are experiencing in imagination as if it were real. Remember, they put the little module caps on for people, for the athletes to wear. And the little caps are hooked up to the computer. And the director of the experiment says, I want you to see yourself running this race. I want you to run this race in your mind. I want you to do these many squats in your mind's eye. Just imagine that you're doing them. And the little hat with the probes on it sends all of this data to the computer. And do you know what the computer recognized? The parts of the brain that light up when this person is physically doing the action lights up, and they're not physically doing it, are they? They're sitting in the chair. They are sitting in the chair. They're not actually running, but they're sitting in the chair. And they are imagining that they are. So what does the brain do? The brain picks up the activity. You are watching the law of correspondence at work. As above, so below, equals as within, so without. So within their minds, they're running the race. And on the outside, their brains pick up the activity as if their bodies were actually doing it. Now, I want you to imagine, if you will, yourself. Remember, you're in the corner and you're having a particular memory, a particular thought, an unsavory one. You're remembering your injustices that were done to you. You are remembering everybody that abandoned you. And you've got the feeling raw in your chest. Are you being abandoned right now, or are you just thinking about it? Oh, you're just thinking about it. But what do you think your brain is doing? Your brain is firing as if you were. So when I say to you, what would it be like if you were living your ideal life? You were getting up in the morning and putting your feet into your fuzzy slippers. Now, if you're Australian, you got to shake them slippers out, but I digress. But if you get up in the morning and you put your feet in your fuzzy slippers and you put on your robe and you can smell your coffee because you set your timer and your coffee just brews. And you walk downstairs and you stretch and you look out your big window and you say, that's my house. I live here. See that feeling in your chest? Your phone rings or dings and you get an email. You've received ... money. Or you get a notification that says, well, you've received this many sales overnight. What would that feel like to you? Oh, well, you see, when you begin to now entertain that, what do you think your brain is doing? Oh, yes, it is firing as if it were happening. But here's the part that matters the most. How many times can you entertain that feeling? And for how long can you entertain it? Because when you do that, you now begin to set down a track, a neurological pathway in your brain. And when you set down that neurological pathway in your brain, you now have to walk according to it. Remember, I told you the image. No, it is too early for you. Shh. Remember the image of you walking, right? And you're walking across this field. Well, imagine you're walking across that field, right? As I go and put him. You. Come, my sweet, handsome boy, come, as they walk across the field. Come, you can walk across the field, too. You can holler at as many girls as you like, baby cakes. Come. Oh, I have some. There you are. I love you. So, if you're walking across that field, you can tell the difference as to how many people have walked that field before. Well, how? How can you tell? There's a groove set down, isn't there? There's a groove set down. Because that's how many people have walked across that particular patch. Now, if you were walking across that field and there is no track, you are the one to make the track. And everybody that comes after you, what do you think they're going to do? They're not going to go through the brush. No, they will go through the track that you set down. So if you can do it with grass, what do you think your brain is doing? You set down a track and now you have to walk it every time. So that's what's happening. Come to boot camp on the 27th and you'll learn how to do it more. But that's what you're doing. You're walking it day in and day out. You are compelled to walk it. Why? Because it is easier to walk the track that has been set down than it is to create one yourself. That's why we will always do what we've always done, because it is the path of least resistance. It's the shortest way to get you to your destination. But you're the one who set the track down by way of repetition. How do you mean, Angela? 30 people walk down that same track. Repetition. So you see, don't for one moment think that your persistent thoughts do not have an effect on your outward expression in the world. So wherever your God-positioned state is, GPS, whatever mood you are in, the more you return to that mood, imagine, if you will, you are walking down that field and you are creating a path. That's what you're doing. Now, where does that path end? This is the question. Where does that path end for you? That's why you can see if that pathway that you're setting down is going to be helpful or harmful to you. So you have a moment. That's why when you stop and ask, what would it be like if, you are looking to make sure that if I set down this pathway, it better be taking me to my destination. So you see, your persistent thoughts will either be like a reoccurring rash, or it'll be good news for you every day. And you all know when we say, oh my God, why do I keep doing this? See, that's like a bad rash, right? It just keeps coming back. And we don't like rashes. Too itchy. So we don't like those. So if you're going to have something recurring, be deliberate about what it is you set down. Which means, how are you speaking to yourself on a daily basis? You think that when you whisper, loser, you just like a sack of hammers. You think that when you whisper that, and that's the thing you've been persistently whispering for years, for weeks and months, do you think that it stays within? As within, so without. And then you will say things like, oh my God, this person just told me how much of a loser I was. Well, they're just echoing back to you what you are saying to yourself. But you know what we don't want to do? We don't want to accept that we are the ones doing it. Why? Because it is far simpler to blame another. But there isn't anyone to blame, honey. I didn't do your repetitive action for you. You did. But here again is your salvation. Do not waste time feeling guilty or blaming yourself. Why? Because you are still walking that track down the pasture. And it is not where you want to go. But constantly blaming yourself and feeling guilty will keep you walking the path, thereby keep you going to the same destination. So what are you going to do? What you going to do? You are going to do what? Imagine a new you. And the more you imagine a new you, your brain is setting down a new pathway for you to follow so you can be the new man or the new woman you say you want to be. So the next time I say to you, experience in imagination what you would experience in reality if you were the man or the woman you wanted to be, now you know what you're doing. Right? Now you know what you're doing. So, where are you focused? What's your destination? Where is your God-positioned state? Well, you'll know it by discovering your mood. That's what a state equals, mood. Your mental state. When you know what it is, you better stop and ask. Is this helpful to me? Is this taking me where I want to go, or is this taking me away from? And if it is taking you away from, what will take you towards it? What would it be like if? Well, that's how you got in the other direction. You asked, what would it be like if? You see, that's the question you're always asking. But you're not asking it with words. You're in your mind's eye and you are experiencing what? Worst case scenarios. Day in and day out. And then you're surprised when you get a worst case scenario. How can you be surprised when you had a foghorn and you hollered through your foghorn and it came? How can you be surprised? There are no surprises. No. There's cause and effect, though. There's correspondence, as above, so below. So there aren't any surprises. You can only reap what you have sown. So cliche, Angela. See, we use the law so much that we want to call it cliche. Law is not cliche, y'all. We take it for granted. That's why it became a cliche. But to reap what you've sown is the second principle of creation. Can you imagine If you said, well, I'm going to go out to my garden and I'm going to plant some corn today, because corn comes to mind first. And you go and you put those kernels of corn in the ground and you plant them, and then all of a sudden, tomatoes. But I didn't plant tomatoes. Do you see how unpredictable existence would be? There is no safety in that unpredictability. There's no comfort there either. So you see, the law is multifaceted because it is the same way every time you get comfortable. You feel safe because you're supposed to be comfortable and safe. That's why when you recognize a pattern, it'll tell you, the same thing, the same way every time. It's predictable. And in that predictability, you know what to expect. Thus, there are no surprises. So why should you be surprised if you get up every day and you are having the same thought every single day? It's like getting up and putting on the same dirty drawers every day, and then you want to know why. Somebody goes, oh, and why the flies are buzzing. What? How can you possibly be surprised at that? But again, you know how to change it now. What would it be like if I was a man or the woman I wanted to be? All you got to do is be honest and answer the question. The question is not, do you think it is possible? You already know. When you're out here in these streets mulling over worst case scenarios, you don't stop to ask, is it possible? You are going through the possibilities. So then why would you stop yourself from going through all of the best case scenarios, best case possibilities? Why? Because you heard you shouldn't have good things? Listen, the person who told you you shouldn't have good things is just mad because they don't have good things. But I digress. That's another day. But again, they're only in a state of what? Disappointment. And they don't want to be disappointed, so they don't, quote unquote, hope for better. But here's the beauty of the law. Create better. Create better. That's what you have the capacity to do. Oh, Joaquim, you hit it. He says, anchor in I am, and you can be what you want and set any new path in any new field. That is fact. I'm going to say it again, Joaquim. Anchor yourself in I am, and you can be what you want and set any new path in any new field. But you got to be bold enough to do this. The same boldness you walk down that field with to set out that new pathway. Again, if you live in Australia, don't do that because you don't know what's in the bush. Man-eaters are in the bush, but I digress. But you see, you just walk down there like it's nobody's business. So when I say to you, imagine the best for yourself, oh, but I'm scared to. Wait, what? You want to walk down a field and you don't know what's in the bush, but you do it anyway. But I'm telling you to sit here and imagine the best. And you want to say, but I'm scared. Listen, at least you know what's in your mind because you can conjure it up. But you don't know what's in them bushes. But you will walk that bush and be okay. Well, then, keep that same energy, as the young people would say. Keep that same energy. And be bold when you make your declaration, when you answer the question, what would it be like if? Don't be scared to allow your mind to explore the beautiful possibilities. Go through them all, as many as you can. One of them is going to stand out to you the most because that's based on your personality. And when it does, Go back to it often. Over and over and over and over and over again. And I love the way that Neville says, fall in love with your new state. Like, when you get a new relationship, y'all just you're on the phone for God knows how many hours. Good night. No, you say good night. No, you say good night. And nobody wants to say good night, so you fall asleep on the phone. Ain't nobody forcing you to be there. The phone dies. Nobody forced you to be there. You were there because you wanted to be there. Well, then, the state that you can conjure up in your mind, treat it the same way as you do your new lover. But then nobody has to force you to be there. Nope. You will gladly nibble on those toes just because you love the state you're in. And it won't feel like a chore to you. And you will have this smooth transition from imaginal act to physical experience. And when it happens, you'll be like, that was easy. See? We're doing it every day. Let us take a brief moment, shall we, to welcome everyone into the space this lovely Thursday, because I'm not going to keep you, because I'm going to let this boy out of the closet. But who's here on Twitter today? Banda Python is in the house. V224, and let's go. It is always just so beautiful to see you all every day here on Twitter. You know I love you. And V224, that recipe the other day you posted, the dish you posted, with the noodles. Oh, Lord have mercy. I was inspired. I said, how can I make this? Anywho, I appreciate that. Who's here on YouTube this morning? Hello, Jeff, darling. Oh, look, the better man is here. A-Not is here, and the others who've not made themselves known, I see you. Who's here on Fanbase this morning? Malik is here. Butterfly. KZ, how did you get down there? KZ, Miss Deborah Osiri. Terrell is here. Terms and Condition is in the house. Hook a brother up. Fawn is here. Shea Butter is in the house. Zeesty is here. Yolanda is here. Oracle Treehouse. Happy is in the house. Flo Smiles is in the house. I Am is in the house. Joaquin Marquise. Listen, if you didn't get a crown this morning, that's just because I started and my eyes are shut, and now I see you. So you already know who you are. Thank you all for being here on this lovely Thursday. As you go out into the world today, you're going to hear this bowl. And when you go out into the world, what state have you put God in? GPS. God position state. What state do you have God in? You got God sucking on lemons and sour grapes? Or do you have God sprinkling confetti and love everywhere? What do you have? What state do you have God in? What's that mood that you have caught for yourself this morning? Ponder that as you hear the bowl today. And when you ponder it, when you contemplate it, is it worthy of God? Because remember, you've got God playing all these parts. Is that part worthy? It isn't. Then what would it be like if you had God playing your ideal role? Oh, now contemplate that. And you contemplate it as many times throughout the day as you possibly can for how long you can. Because you're already doing it the other way. And we all know that doesn't feel good. But anyhow, as my grandmother would say, oh my God, I just heard my grandmother in my head. My mother's mother, the way she would say, well, anyhow, that's how she would always say it.
She was something else. Anywho, you might get bird song. I don't know. Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2. Ah, hey, Kiki, darling. Anyhow, remember, if you've not yet pre ordered your Hermetic Oracle cards, we got the printer down to 60 decks instead of 1,000. So go ahead and pre order. We hit 60, they run the press. So the link is always in the bio or underneath the video. If you haven't signed up for boot camp on April the 27th, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it is $50 per person, or if you bring a friend, you pay $35, they pay $35. That is boot camp. And for the Barbados people, if you haven't yet submitted your money, it is due by the 22nd. That's in 13 days? Something like that. My math be mathing. So those are the announcements. I love you, and I will see you tonight, 10:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if you are still awake, for the Neville Goddard lecture, where we will fall asleep in the state of the wish fulfilled. And you know I love you. Much love, Twitter. Twitter is closed. Let's get the water ready. Much love to you, YouTube. Jeff the Better Man, A Not, and for all the others. Much love to you.